It always feels good when you are appreciated. SLT non-stop broadband. Free loyalty data added as you stay connected.
ලෙන්ගතුකම වැඩි කරගන්න ලව්ජු රුපියල් 50ට අඩු කළා.
මාමේ එන්න අපිට එකක් බොමු.
Tonight, so long. Foreign Minister Dinesh Gunawardena announces Sri Lanka's withdrawal from Resolution 40/1 in Geneva.
The commitments made bound the country to carry out this experiment, which was impractical, unconstitutional and undeliverable.
By the horns, Defence Secretary says that country's focus should be on tackling radicalisation in all its forms.
Politico-religious radicalisation that steered the Easter Sunday attacks should be the focal point of.
Sat on it. Easter Attack Commission told that Colombo North SSP only passed on crucial Easter attack intel after the attacks. Free bird. MP Ranjan Ramanayaka gets bail, but the government analyst confirms voice on tapes is his. All that and much more coming up on First at 9, this Wednesday, the 26th of February, 2020.
$69.97 SMS කර රුපියල් මිලියන 3ක මුල්තැන්ගේ උපකරණ දිනාගෙන අවුරුද්දෙම කුස්සිය ටයිම් සේව් කරගන්න.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Kamnik Naik. Let's start with local stories. Foreign Minister Dinesh Gunawardena today addressed the 7th meeting of the 43rd regular session of the United Nations Human Rights Council, where he delivered the government's decision to withdraw from the UNHRC resolution 40/1. The Foreign Minister outlined the government's rationale for the withdrawal, highlighting obligations within the self-sponsored resolution that cannot be carried out within the country's constitutional framework, infringes upon the sovereignty of its people and violates the basic structure of the constitution. He added that the commitments made indicated changes in the country that undermined national interests, compromised national security and weakened national intelligence operations, which contributed to security lapses that resulted in the Easter Sunday terror attacks of April last year.
This council is aware in November 2019 the people of Sri Lanka gave a resounding mandate to President Gotabaya Rajapaksa to pursue a policy framework aimed at achieving the fourfold outcome of a productive citizenry, a contented family, disciplined, a just society and a prosperous nation. It is envisaged to achieve sustainable development and peace in the country, firmly anchored in safeguarding national security without compromise in the democratic space. The end of the brutal conflict advanced, secured, protected one of the fundamental human rights, the right to life, for all Sri Lankans, Sinhalese, Tamil, Muslim and others. I would like to state with pride that since May 2009, not a bullet has been fired in the name of separatist movement in Sri Lanka. Mr. President, a group of UNHRC members failing to appreciate the GOSL endeavors in defeating terrorism and bringing about stability, humanitarian relief and lasting peace through a carefully balanced reconciliation process, moved consecutive country-specific resolutions at the UNHRC on Sri Lanka in 2012, 13 and 14. Mr. President, the previous government in July 2015 jettisoned this homegrown reconciliation process which was bearing fruit. In an unprecedented move in the annals of the Human Rights Council, the government at that time co-sponsored UNHRC Resolution 30/1 on Sri Lanka. Substantively, the previous government noted with appreciation the much flawed OISL report, which was used as a basis not only for Resolution 31, but also to vilify the heroic Sri Lanka security forces. This was despite there being an abundance of evidence in the contrary contained in domestic reports such as the LLRC, Justice Paranagama Commission report, information presented before the UK House of Lords by Lord Nesby, challenging among Other things, the vastly exaggerated civilian figures, other reports of the UN, international agencies including the ICRC, as well as exposed diplomatic cables. Constitutionally, the resolution seeks to cast upon Sri Lanka obligations. It infringes the sovereignty of people of Sri Lanka, violates the basic structure of our constitution. Procedurally, in co-sponsoring Resolution 31, previous government violated all democratic principles of governance. It declared support for the resolution even before the draft text was presented. It sought no cabinet approval to bind the country to deliver the dictates of an international body. There was no reference to parliament. More importantly, the resolution itself included provisions which are undeliverable due to its inherent illegality. The commitments made bound the country to carry out this experiment, which was impractical, unconstitutional, and undeliverable. More seriously, it is seen that the dictated changes in the country pursuant to 30/1 undermine the national interest, compromise national security, including weakening national intelligence operations which are deemed to have contributed to the lapses that resulted in Easter Sunday attacks in April 2019. With the election of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, with an overwhelming majority, the people of Sri Lanka have given a clear signal for their wish for a different path forward for the country. Our government is committed to examining issues afresh, to forge ahead with its agenda, prosperity through security and development. In this context, that I wish to place on record Sri Lanka's decision to withdraw from the co-sponsorship of the Resolution 40/1, which also incorporates and builds on preceding resolutions 30/1 of October 2015 and 34/1 of March 2017. Sri Lanka remains committed to achieving the goals set by the people of Sri Lanka on accountability, human rights. The government of Sri Lanka declares its commitment to achieve sustainable peace through an inclusive, domestically designed, executed reconciliation and accountability process. This would comprise the appointment of a commission of inquiry which headed by a justice of the Supreme Court to review the reports of the previous commissions of inquiry. We will implement policies rooted in the government's commitment to the people by advancing individual and collective rights, protections under the law, ensuring justice and reconciliation, and addressing the concerns of the vulnerable sections of our society. Sri Lanka will continue to remain engaged with and seek as required the assistance of the UN and its agencies in keeping with domestic priorities and policies. Finally, in conjunction with all members of the UN, Sri Lanka will seek to work towards the closure of the resolution. Siyalu Sattvayo, Niduk Vetwa, Nirogi Vetwa, Suwapat Veva.
Now, Defence Secretary Major General Kamal Gunaratne insists that the Easter Sunday attacks were a result of transitional extremism having crossed international borders. He added that the attacks happened as a result of the negligence of authorities and due to the prioritizing of democracy and reconciliation over national security. He made these comments addressing the Professionals Forum, which was worked off at the Foundation Institute in Colombo.
Transitional extremism and terrorism is in the verge of crossing international borders much more rapidly. Sri Lanka is no exception in this regard, and we felt in last April, Easter attack in Sri Lanka has been one of the greatest breaches in our security apparatus, resulting more than 290 deaths of innocent people of this country with few foreigners in many parts of the island. It is being considered as a sheer negligence of the authorities, which has given the highest priority for two words, democracy and reconciliation, at the expense of one word, that is national security. I should say that the government is well geared and in full focus to ensure the national security of Sri Lanka to all its citizens. We have already identified our major challenges against the national security spectrum of the country. First of all, radicalization in layman's terms is the adoption of extreme political, social or religious ideas and aspirations that inspire violence or acts of terror. Sri Lanka had been successful in countering this kind of radicalization in the recent past. However, the current trend, the politico-religious radicalization that steered the Easter Sunday attacks, should be the focal point of all concerned elements. We must keep in mind that the transitional extremism that is in place definitely has a direct bearing on domestic religious extremism. The next challenge we can foresee is the re-emergence of terrorism. Even though Sri Lanka cannot visualize such a threat in the foreseeable future, we must always be capable of observing measures to curtail such in our lifetime. The availability of pro-LTT elements abroad and its covert supportive elements in the local does pose a threat. However, they will not be able to pose any threat to the stability of Sri Lanka as of yet. Therefore, a clash for separatism could not be anticipated in current Sri Lankan context.
Now, giving evidence before the Presidential Commission of Inquiry probing the Easter Sunday attacks, SL Cert IT security engineer Ravindu Meegasmulla, who was charged by the Commission to compile a report on the police department's use of its VPN network, revealed that investigations had uncovered startling evidence of negligence in the dissemination of intelligence information by Colombo North SSP Sanjeeva Bandara. He revealed that even though the intelligence document had been forwarded to SSP Bandara on the 11th of April, he had only forwarded the document down his chain of command a few hours after the Easter attacks had happened.
Assistant Superintendent of Police Tharaka Seniviratna of the Police Information Technology Division was summoned to the Presidential Commission of Inquiry probing the Easter attacks yesterday. ASP Seniviratna revealed to the Commission that the department's VPN network had not been operative since July 2018 due to the non-payment of dues to the contractor tasked with maintaining the service. He added that although this situation had been notified to IGP Pujit Jayasundara at the time, no remedial action had been taken so far. The Commission then called on Sri Lanka Computer Emergency Readiness Team Engineer Ravindu Meegasmulla, who was charged by the Commission with compiling a report on the use of the VPN network by the police department in the run-up to and during the Easter attacks. Responding to questions, Meegasmulla revealed that the computer terminals used by the police department's VPN unit possessed only a limited memory capacity, and as such, data contained in the database was deleted every 2 days. However, he did confirm that an email was forwarded to several subordinates by the senior DIG in charge of the Western Province that included a 5-page attachment containing intelligence information on the Easter attacks. In addition, he confirmed that the same email was then forwarded to Deputy Inspector Generals of Colombo, Gampa, Nugegada and Kalutara at 9:56 am on 11th April 2019. He added that even though the DIG in charge of the Colombo district had received the same attachment at 10:10 am the same day, there were questions as to whether the document was effectively forwarded by the SSP in charge of the Colombo North Division to the relevant personnel down through his chain of command. He revealed that it had been verified that the Colombo North SSP had only passed down the document to his subordinates following the attacks on 21st April at 12:57 pm, after having received the document on 11th April. It was also revealed that unlike its superiors, the Colombo North SSP had not initialed the intelligence document before forwarding the email down his chain of command. Upon being questioned by the Commission on the possibility of the Colombo North SSP having deleted any information from his official computer, the IT security engineer responded that such information could be uncovered through a thorough investigation into the matter. It was also noted that although Colombo North SSP Sanjeeva Bandara and Inspector Sudatsiri Upendra had been summoned by the Commission on the day, they had however left the premises during the cross-examination of the IT security engineer.
Now, moving on with other local stories, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has instructed relevant authorities to ensure that the fisheries sector is protected while enabling consumers to purchase fish at a reasonable price. The head of state delivered the instructions during a meeting worked off this morning with owners of multi-day trawlers and representatives of the Ministry of Fisheries.
During the discussion hosted at Temple Trees by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa with stakeholders of the fisheries sector and relevant officials, the head of state said that plans for export fisheries will be drafted via a committee comprising of exporters and vessel owners. Fisheries associations have made note of the fact that exporters only purchase fish harvests caught by their own vessels, and the lack of a proper market is problematic. The head of state has instructed the chairman of the Ceylon Fisheries Corporation to intervene in purchasing fish harvests with the involvement of the private sector as a temporary solution.
ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ පරම්පරාගත ඉවර අත්පත්කරුවන් ඒගොල්ලන්ව ටික ආරක්ෂා වෙන්න යන ගමන් තමයි මේක දුරු වෙන්නේ. ඒ ක්‍රමවේද අපි කියන weaknesses හදාගන්න.
Now taking a look at Sri Lanka's politics, opposition leader Sajith Premadasa today announced that the long-awaited opposition alliance, the Samagi Janabalavege, will be unveiled on the 2nd of March. He added that the alliance will look to place the hopes and wishes of the people at the forefront of their activities and put personal differences on the back burner. The opposition leader made these comments at a media briefing held at the parliamentary complex.
ගරු රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මැතිතුමා මමත් අපේ රංජිත් මද්දුම බණ්ඩාර මහලේකම්තුමත් හමු වෙලා එතුමාට ආරාධනා කරලා අපි මේ ගමන එක්සත්ව සමගියෙන් සමාදානෙන් පෞද්ගලිකව අපේ කරුණු කාරණා මුදුන්පත් කරගන්නේ නැතුව රටේ ජනතාවගේ පැතුම බලාපොරොත්තු ප්‍රායෝගිකව ක්‍රියාවට නංවන උදාරතර ප්‍රබුද්ධ නව දේශපාලන බලවේගය සමගි ජන බලවේගය සුවහසක් ලංකාවාසී ජනතාවගේ සහභාගීත්වයෙන් ශක්තිය තුලින් අපි දියත් කරන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා දෙවෙනිදා.
ඒක ගිවිසුම ගත වෙන්නේ මාර්තු 2 වෙනිදාද?
ඒ නෛතික ගිවිසුම කොහොමදත් දැනටමත් අපි එකගතාවයකට අවිල්ලා තිබෙන්නේ අපි සංකේතාත්මකව ඒක එලි දක්වනවා දෙවෙනිදාට.
Meanwhile, UMP MP Ravi Karunaika sought to dispel rumours of a lack of unanimity within the alliance.
What is basically the UMP stand is that we have decided that we will work in alliance with all, and that particular one is being discussed, and we are moving forward on that, and that will be looked at the working committee, and the final things will be looked at. And the situation there that exists was whether there was the need to contest with the elephant or the swan, and that's the only difference that exists. So it is a combined effort that will basically go forward. I think there are many people that are trying to fish in troubled waters by saying that there is no unanimity, but that unanimity is there. It will be how it's going forward is only the symbol that has the difference.
We will see you again shortly after this break. Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, UMP MP Ranjan Ramanayaka, who was arrested and remanded over charges of interfering with the judiciary, was granted bail today by the Nugegoda Magistrates Court. He was released on 2 sureties of 500,000 rupees each, in addition to strict bail conditions. Ramanayaka was also barred from leaving the country by the court, which ordered the parliamentarian to hand over his passport. Now, during today's court proceedings, the Government Analysts Department informed court that the voice on the audio clips broadcast over various media outlets, alleged to be telephone conversations the parliamentarian had with influential figures in society, including judges, matches the voice of MP Ramanayaka. Nugegoda Magistrates Court last month ordered the government analysts to obtain copies of the CDs containing audio clips of MP Ramanayaka's phone conversations and data reports of the laptop and hard disk found in his home. Legal counsel representing the parliamentarian requested the court to grant bail to his client, since the report produced by the government analyst makes no mention whether the voice of his client included on the recordings are edited or not. The state prosecution, however, urged against the MP being granted bail, saying it could prove to be a hindrance to ongoing probes. After considering submissions from both parties, the Nugegoda Magistrates Court granted MP Ramanayaka bail on 2 sureties of 500,000 rupees each, in addition to strict bail conditions. Now, the World Health Organization says that novel coronavirus COVID-19 is spreading faster outside China. In the latest developments across the globe, the city of San Francisco has declared a state of emergency following the detection of multiple cases. Meanwhile, India has flown 15 tons of medical aid to China as a gesture of goodwill, where latest data yet again showed that the COVID-19 outbreak might be winding down, with its overnight death toll standing at 52, which is a considerable downturn from yesterday's 72.
As at 5:15 p.m. Sri Lankan time today, South Korea confirmed 12 COVID-19 deaths, with the total number of infected patients currently standing at 1,261, and more infections expected as the government widened its testing parameters. According to the Korea Center for Disease Control and Prevention, most of the new cases were reported from Daegu city. Out of the 20,000 Sri Lankans domiciled in Korea, 915 Sri Lankans live in Daegu city, and no COVID-19 infections have been reported among them so far. Furthermore, the Sri Lankan embassy in South Korea said that it is in constant contact with them and will be keeping a close eye on their health condition. Italy, which is now considered the epicenter of the COVID-19 outbreak in Europe, confirmed 11 deaths, one short of the South Korean death toll today and counts a total of 357 cases of infection. The new cases of infections were reported in central Tuscany, the coastal region of Liguria, and Sicily in the south of the country. It is reported that 60% of the total number of Sri Lankans living in Italy reside in the Lombardy region that has been hit the highest by the virus outbreak. As in South Korea, so far no virus infections have been reported among the Sri Lankan community. According to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Sri Lankans visiting Italy, in particular northern Italy, are requested to be vigilant and take all necessary precautions in line with rules, regulations and safety measures issued by local authorities. In the meantime, the global COVID-19 death toll has increased to 2,769, with a total of 81,234 people infected. At the moment, the entire world is currently on COVID-19 alert, as mainland China reports a decline in cases. Meanwhile, Iran reported 19 deaths and 139 cases of coronavirus infections today, becoming the highest number of deaths outside China. Following the COVID-19 outbreak in Italy, first cases of infection were reported in Spain, Croatia, Switzerland and Algeria yesterday. The new cases reported were people who had recently visited the north of Italy.
Now, the UN Conference on Trade and Development say that British exports to the European Union could fall by as much as 14% if the two sides are unable to strike a free trade agreement. However, it added that even with one, figures could be 9% lower than pre-Brexit numbers. The imposition of tariffs under a no-deal scenario would crimp trade, with the effect amplified by so-called non-tariff measures such as quotas, licensing and regulatory measures, protecting health, safety and environment. The study showed that these non-tariff measures may double the impact of tariffs and could lead to an estimated $32 billion hit to British exporters. The agriculture, food and beverages and wood and paper sectors seem particularly exposed, with a weaker impact on electrical and machinery, metal products, chemicals and textile and apparel. It pointed out that non-tariff measures affect more than 80% of trade in developed countries and more than 90% in the European Union. Global stocks tumbled today as fears of COVID-19 outbreaks all over the world outside China saw increased selling across the board. London's blue-chip FTSE 100 index fell 2% to a one-year low of 6,871.85 as world leaders warned countries to prepare for outbreaks of the virus that has killed more than 2,700 people so far. Germany's DAX and the CAC 40 in Paris dropped 1% and 0.7% respectively, while Nikkei 225 was down 0.8% to end at 22,426.19. South Korea's Kospi dropped 1.2% to end at 2,076.77, following the country's COVID-19 numbers being reported at 1,261. Dow futures were down 51 points at 27,066, and Nasdaq futures had recently dropped 0.1% to 8,845, while S&P 500 futures were down less than 0.1% at 3,131. Now, taking a look at the local markets, stocks retreated for the fourth consecutive day, plunging 1.52% today on Ceylon Beverage Holdings, Adalo Gashiata and LOSC Holdings amid listed firms releasing their December quarter financials. The all-share price index closed 87.31 points down at 5,643.62. The S&P SL20 index of more liquid stocks closed 60.42 points down at 2,670.97. Market turnover was 360.9 million rupees today, while 20 stocks gained and 142 fell. Foreign investors were moderately active with net buying of 16.5 million rupees. Now here's a brief report on today's market performance.
In the bond market, the secondary market yield curve remained broadly unchanged, while overall market witnessed moderate volumes. In the equity market, BOS ended in red for the fourth straight session, while the price losses made in Big Cap Brew and Dialogue mainly contributed to drag the index down. Turnover was relatively lower compared to the previous trading day, while crossings took place pertaining to CTC contributed a mere 6%.
In the currency market, the Sri Lankan rupee closed steady at 181 rupees and 65 to 70 cents to the US dollar. while bond yields remained stable. However, the rupee ended at 181 rupees and 65 to 75 cents to the greenback yesterday. Now let's take a look at how the Sri Lankan rupee traded against other major currencies during the day. Welcome back. This is First at 9. Now, Malaysia's Mahathir Mohamad called for a unity government without political parties after his shock resignation as Prime Minister sparked turmoil. Mahathir, the world's oldest head of government, resigned on Monday but was immediately named by the King as interim Prime Minister. In his first address since then, Mahathir apologized for the turmoil but said he was ready to return as Prime Minister full-time if he had support. In the televised message, he called to propose an independent government not aligned with any party, but only prioritize the interests of the country. But old rival Anwar Ibrahim supporters said he had also been put forward as Prime Minister. The struggle between the 94-year-old and Anwar, who is 72 years of age, who formed a surprise pact to win the 2018 election, has shaped politics in the Southeast Asian country for more than 2 decades and is the root of the latest crisis. Now, 23 people have been killed in the Indian capital during violent clashes between Hindu and Muslim groups over a new citizenship law. Police used tear gas, smoke grenades and pellets, but have struggled to disperse stone-throwing crowds involved in the violence that spiraled out of control on Monday. The clashes, which coincided the visit to India, by US President Donald Trump, erupted between thousands demonstrating for and against the new citizenship law introduced by Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Hindu nationalist government. India's capital has been the epicenter of unrest against the Citizenship Amendment Act, which makes it easier for non-Muslims from some neighboring Muslim-dominated countries to gain Indian citizenship. Critics say the law is biased against Muslims and undermines India's secular constitution. The ruling Bharatiya Janata Party has denied it, saying any bias against India's more than 180 million Muslims. There, however, were no immediate reports of any fighting today. And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye. අනේ මලි ස්ටොක් එකේ ඉන්ට්‍රෝ එක ගමුද?